everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Joker. We just got back from seeing it. We saw it like an hour ago, and we're going to jump straight into it. So this is a movie that I'm hearing a lot of folks who cannot decide if they want to go or not. It's not affecting the box office. The movie seems to be doing just fine. But even just a day with it in the theater, I'm still talking to people who are like, I just can't decide if I want to see that. It might be too gruesome for my taste. I don't know if I want more Batman origin material. I don't know if I want to deal with a Joker origin thing, because I don't think Joker should have an origin, that kind of thing. So we are, as we always do, going to lead with non-spoiler. We're going to talk spoilers a little bit after this. I kind of wish I had a few days, but we're doing the how we felt about thing. So we're going to talk primarily to folks who have not seen this yet, and then we'll do some spoilers. So just jumping right into it from I have
strong first viewing impressions.
Okay,
I'm not saying they can't change with subsequent viewings, but I have strong first viewing
impressions. And I'll say I have feelings I don't know if I'll figure out how to articulate.
Okay.
But I'm gonna try.
Okay.
So I have a feeling that this conversation is going to tell me how I feel, because I'm having a difficult time understanding it myself. So real quick, synopsis and back matter with this. This is a 70s period piece that shows the origin of the Joker, who is a regular guy who is trying to make it as a stand-up comedian and has a condition that makes it so that he randomly laughs even when he doesn't think things are funny, even when he doesn't want to laugh, and it tends to look like kind of a nervous tic.
It's like Tourette's.
Yeah.
It seems to be oftentimes stress-induced.
There is, I think, a little bit of a question as to whether or not it's actually a real thing, or if it's like a thing that he's kind of like imposed on himself. There's a little bit of a question there.
Or if at the very least, like, it's not as much of a problem as
he's making it out to be.
Yeah.
Like he's maybe blaming some things on it. But then somewhere in the course of his feeling like he's not being treated right, and people aren't paying attention to him and aren't taking him seriously, he becomes the Joker. That happens in the film. Not a surprise. Let's go ahead and get into it. Eric, how did you feel about Joker?
So from the trailers and stuff, because I don't think I've talked about this much on video.
No,
like what my reactions were, I thought it looked really basic and obvious.
Yeah.
I thought it looked like the most paint-by-numbers Joker story,
Joker
origin story you could possibly come up with. I have very conflicted feelings about this movie. I like it until the third act. I think up until the third act, it subverts everything I was worried it was going to do and doesn't do them. I think it plays like almost perfect. Where like I'm like, yeah, I see how this guy can become the Joker. Like, and Joaquin Phoenix is like amazing in this.
His performance is masterful.
Doing what he's doing with his face when he's doing the laughing when he doesn't want to be laughing is amazing. Like that kind of like facial control.
Looks painful.
Yeah. But then you get to the third act and it's everything I didn't want this movie to be. Also with the social stuff around this movie, I thought it was all dealt with really, really well, and then the third movie is everything the third act is everything everyone was worried this movie would be. I think this is a movie that knows what it's doing until the third act, and then it becomes, I don't know, it's hard to talk about without spoilers.
Yeah.
I think it's a movie that doesn't endorse itself until it gets to the third act, and then it becomes a complete endorsement of this character. My greatest fear was that this movie would be a movie that makes Joker the hero, and I think by the end, it kind of does. He has a speech at the end where I'm like, oh, I'm going to
vehemently disagree with you on that.
Okay.
I completely disagree with you on that, and it's all about POV, and we'll talk about it.
This movie has one of the best POVs I've ever seen. It's masterful.
It's remarkable in getting into his head. And when I say getting into his head, I mean that I understand how he's feeling as much as I can. Because this is a story about a character who doesn't understand how he's feeling. So that's tough, and that's an impressive balancing act. But I'm also talking about how the character is so in his head. Like as a character, where like he keeps talking about how he's not even sure if he exists, if he's alive, and I feel that all through it. The stuff you're talking about in the third act, in my opinion, is the movie just not losing its POV. That's how he's feeling. That's where he's at. He thinks he's the hero, to some degree, at least for himself, for his own story. And after all, by the end of this, he doesn't really care about anybody but himself, right? Like, it is just his world, and you're living in it.
Yeah, but that speech he gives seems real on the nose and real.
I think it goes a little too far, but I don't think it. I think it's the movie trying to keep him sympathetic. And by sympathetic, of course, I mean where we understand where he comes from, and we still see him as having been a person at some point. Now we're just analyzing, but
I think that's a mistake. I think that speech he gives.
I don't think it ruins the whole third act, though. I think it goes a smidge too far, and then I think everything after it is still fine.
Okay, there's stuff I don't like after it, too.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it.
But I really like it until that stuff. I also was waiting for the moment where he was the Joker and never really got that. Except for one shot where I'm like, this is it, and that kind of never get more. I also think that they love Frank Miller's Joker. He's smoking cigarettes constantly, and it almost is always framed the way it is in Dark Knight Returns, which I thought was interesting.
Now, is it possible that doesn't actually have anything to do with the director or anybody on this reading that book, and that it's a happy accident?
It is,
because there was all that talk about how he doesn't care about comics, and
but that's not what he said.
Okay, what did he say?
He said that we're not doing the comics.
Okay.
He didn't, and there's stuff in this that I don't think you would have if you didn't read the comics at all.
Sure. There's some obvious stuff that we'll talk about.
And
later, but, yeah.
If you read like 4 books to prepare for doing a Batman movie, like Dark Knight Returns is always one of those books.
You're gonna read Dark Knight Returns. You're gonna read Long Halloween. You're gonna read Killing Joke.
Yeah.
And Year One. Those are the 4, right?
This is a masterfully written and edited and directed film.
And half of those are Frank Miller, so of course it's got a lot of Frank Miller influence. Year One, I can see his influence on this in a weird way. Yeah, I don't know how much of it is on this. I'm just saying that if the 4 things you'd read before you made a Batman movie, those are the 4.
But
generally speaking,
this is the origin story for the Joker in the Year One universe, right?
Sure.
Like these things are connected.
Well, and especially like it lines up year-wise if this happens before Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah, no kidding.
This would also be the time period that would take place in.
But I'm definitely feeling it. I think it's.
You enjoyed it way more than you expected to.
I definitely
is
did.
the sense I'm getting.
The POV stuff was amazing.
Yeah.
Like there's a moment where he finds something out and then it cuts and someone else says, "I'm not coming out until you stop being angry."
Yeah.
Because he doesn't acknowledge that happened, and therefore we don't get to see it, and the whole movie is like that.
There's stuff you don't know if it's real or not until he finally knows.
Although, the moment where he finally knows, I didn't need to cut back. I got it.
Yeah, I got it, too.
But...
Well, and it happens a couple of times, with a couple of different things.
But there's a big one.
And so the 2 things, because I can't spoil them quite yet, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about 2 things. One of them is a thing that he does not realize is not happening, and another one is a thing that he knows he's in his head, but we don't until we do.
Although I suspect it the entire time.
So did I. But I thought this universe was just heightened enough that it might be going that far, and then I was like, this is going too far, and then I thought maybe it was not going to be a good movie, and then that ended up not happening, and so that was good. But
I think...
I don't understand. I can't talk about that yet. Go ahead.
I think it's just shy of being a great movie,
so
an all-time great movie. I think it stumbles a little bit at the end.
I just can't agree with whole third act, and I can't agree with the movies endorsing the character. I can't agree with that.
Okay, I kind of feel like that at the end, and we can talk about that a little bit in spoilers.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I thought you knew what you were doing, and now I'm not sure. But again, like I said, these are my initial. I could feel differently on more viewings, and I'll certainly see this. But I was completely won over within 5 minutes, and I was with it until a certain point, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm still with this movie." But it's definitely I'm feeling
the experience regardless. Right?
It's an amazing performance. Like enough cannot be said about the performance that he gives in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the obvious acting things, but what he's doing physically, especially with his face. And there's I think he could have made a great Joker. And I think it's kind of unfortunate that we're not going to get that. Because that's really the thing, halfway through the movie, I'm like, I kind of want to see him go up against Batman.
Yeah. Well, let me use that to segue into my sign flip and start with, I guess my big negative. And this is going to sound like one of those kind of like backhanded things where it's like, oh, you love this movie so much you couldn't think of something to complain about. No, I mean, I got questions, and I'm not
and
sure
there is a prequelitis thing.
There is a prequelitis thing, certainly.
But only one!
It's not, it's not Gotham or Smallville or anything.
Yeah,
It doesn't have enough time to be that. But anyway, I mean, the pilot for Gotham's okay. But, so, I got to the end, and I thought, I need more. It's over, and it shouldn't be over yet. And I don't mean that the story wasn't told. That's the thing, is that it's economical, and it gets in and it gets out, and it's not concerned about trying to create a franchise, and it just wants to make a movie. And of course, they've said it's not a franchise, and they just made a movie, and they're not planning on bringing him back for anything.
I want the first Batman fight, right? Like, that's what you want. You want that first Joker adventure.
Yeah, or if not that, I do have what you had, where I didn't quite feel like I got to see him be the Joker. Like I saw certainly the beginnings of the Joker. And it's not that prequel thing that we often do, or like the prequel reimagining thing where you see it in like a glimmer of it in the last 5 minutes. Like, there's a point where basically when he finally puts the costume on, he's essentially his full-on Joker, or really, really close to it. The place where he does his biggest, most horrifying crime is, I'm not spoiling things too much. The Joker commits crimes. The Joker commits a big scary crime that you may or may not see coming, and then after that it's very much, okay, he's the Joker now. So like, it's a good 15 minutes. It's just, I wanted to live in that world longer, and kind of hated that I was never going to get to see this character again. This particular version of it.
Yeah, this kind of felt like we kind of got to the point where he's the Joker. I'm like, okay, now I want to see it.
Yeah, I feel like they told the story they intended to tell, and that there's a good believable arc, and I'm captivated, and I'm sucked in, and then it was over. And I think it was a real bittersweet thing, because as a piece, it's just right. Mm-hmm. That part of the just that feeling is what you should have. But I'm never going to get any more of it, so it's kind of sad. So I don't even know if that's a criticism. I'm not saying it should have been any longer. That's where I'm conflicted. Like, I can't really dock it for that.
And you wouldn't feel that way if it wasn't a Joker movie, which I'm not convinced it needed to be. Yeah. I said, seeing the trailers, I'm like, I have this feeling that he had an idea for a movie, and then said, well, I can sell 100,000 million tickets.
One big thing I thought about. I thought when I saw the trailers, and I did walk out with that same feeling. Where
this did not have to be a Joker movie. This could have been a great movie that 7,000 people saw.
Exactly. That's the thing, is I probably wouldn't have even gone to this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these kinds of movies that, psychological thrillers that I've never thought to sit down and watch. I never would have saw, like, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer if it wasn't for Vince. I've still never seen American Psycho, and that's Christian Bale. I should watch that. I've never done it. So, like, these kinds of movies I don't tend to think to watch. When I watch them, I tend to enjoy them. Or I at least tend to get sucked into them. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested in them. So let me get to compliments to the film. This is gorgeous.
Yes.
It is a beautiful film. It's the cinematography is wonderful. The pacing is spot on. It's confident. It has a vision, has an absolute artistic vision. It feels like a movie that was made in the time period that it's set in, but not in a pretentious way. And one thing I was really worried about was that this movie would be super pretentious and super Oscar baity. And it felt like from the previews and the way people were talking about it, that it was a movie that was kind of made hoping it would win an Oscar.
And there were scenes in the trailer that I thought played in the movie just with different music.
So did I. And I thought, that I was weird about.
I was like, that feels like it's trying a little hard. Doesn't feel that way in
I don't think it's trying too hard. I think it is. I think the hype is real on this. I think the level of artistry is absolutely there. If this did win an Oscar, I think it deserves it. I don't know necessarily that it should, but if it does, I wouldn't be like, what? That wasn't like, if it won a cinematography Oscar, if it won Best Actor, especially, I think it deserves that. Mm-hmm. In a year where I haven't seen a lot of great movies, and I've not been to the theater as much as I sometimes go, admittedly, if this won Best Picture, I wouldn't be like, what? Mm-hmm. That? What? No. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have that. So I think as far as the art house filmness of it, I think the hype is real, and I think that it's not trying too hard. I don't think it's pretentious.
And it's the direction I want to see comic book movies going.
That's the big thing I kept going back to while I was watching this that I wanted to ask you about. I'm glad you.
I want to see more movies like this.
I want to see things, but that's the thing.
Not like this, but like where like you just let someone just go and do what they want to do.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
It doesn't have to be serious and dark.
That's where I'm conflicted. So we want stuff that's based on the source material, that where you just go find some interesting aspect in comics, some interesting character to explore, and you tell a story, whatever kind of story it is, and it doesn't have to have a standard 3-act structure, it doesn't have to have a standard comic book superhero structure, and it can just be a movie, and I know a lot of people say that about some of the big heralded comic movies, like The Dark Knight is not a superhero movie, it's a movie. Well, it's both. This is, of course, not a superhero movie, not at all.
Even if not a supervillain movie.
Even if you feel like it's endorsing the Joker at the end, it's certainly not painting him as a superhero. Mm-hmm. That's not happening. And you're right, it's not really a supervillain movie either, although this is a character that certainly could be a supervillain if a superhero showed up. The thing I kept... But the thing that makes me conflicted about it is, but we're also saying it didn't have to be Joker. So, like, isn't it cool that they did that, but this movie could have been made without it being the Joker? You see what I'm saying?
I think some of that comes down to the third act, though. I think if we got a fully formed Joker at the end, it would feel more like it had to be.
So we both wanted it to feel more necessary that this was the material we were drawing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all. Like a few tweaks, I don't have a problem with this movie really.
And
it's a very good movie.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's one of those things where if the last 10 minutes of a movie suck, I'm not saying the last 10 minutes suck, but if the last 10 minutes of a movie suck, you walk out there being like, well, that wasn't very good. And the whole movie could suck, but if the last 10 minutes kill it, you walk out of the theater and your initial reaction is, well, that was pretty good. And I'm having one of those.
And if everything is... The thing is, if it's the kind of story where everything is about the ending, all roads were leading there, it kind of doesn't matter how good the rest of the movie was because it makes the whole thing fall apart. This is not that kind of a movie. This is a character study film. And an ending could kind of kill a movie like this. Well...
Because it's building to what he's...
Okay, but at least it's not a mystery. Yes. That sort of thing. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. It's not a mystery box.
So, yeah, how the obvious ending is achieved, we know this guy's going to be a serial killer. Mm-hmm. We know this guy's going to go off half-cocked, and he's going to become the Joker. He's just going to murder everybody. Mm-hmm. We know that's going to happen. How we get there does matter, but if the rest of the character study is good and they don't quite nail that, I think you've still got like 78% of a good time.
Yeah.
And if you have that problem with it, I think I maybe liked it more than you did, in that I'm more okay with some of the ending stuff, I think. We'll talk about it. Maybe you can change my mind.
It's like an 80, 85, like just runtime, like 80, 85% of this movie I'm in love with. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Let me just say, all the way through, and I'm weird about that speech.
It also doesn't feel too long. I couldn't.
I wanted it to be
longer. Couldn't guess what the time is. This could be a tight.
I had that too.
Hour 45. This could be a 2.5-hour movie. Yeah. I don't know.
When we got to the end, I was like, "Is there another 20 minutes left of this movie?" And that was part of why I wanted to live in it longer, and I felt like it ended too early. And then when it ended, I went, "Yeah, okay, they told the story they came to tell," but I wasn't sure because I didn't know where it was going. Mm-hmm. And then when we get the final scene. There's like a cut to black or a fade to black, and then we get the final scene. I was like, okay, I think we're in epilogue territory, and we were. Mm-hmm. But I also could have seen it going another 20 minutes. I'm going to call this Breaking Bad pacing. This is the kind of the kind of filmmaking where you should be bored because nothing is happening, but there's so much happening. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of thing where there's a lot of just filming a person standing. Mm-hmm. Or a person laughing for a long time.
And it works in this in a way it doesn't work in some other things. Yeah. Like, I've seen it where I'm like Iron Fist. Like, Iron Fist tried to do things that this movie does and did it poorly.
Because everything about this feels weighty, and because I always feel like I'm in this guy's head.
It feels like, unlike Iron Fist, with him. It also feels like it's made by, like, a real artist who, like, is trying to do something as opposed to, well, this is what artistic movies look like. Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen a lot of those lately where it's like, I know it's artistic to have a long shot where we just sit there and look at it. I don't know why it's artistic. I don't know what I'm supposed to be conveying, but I know this means it's drama.
This movie didn't just try to look like a 70s psychological thriller or crime movie. it understood why that stuff worked.
Yeah.
So it is that, but it doesn't feel like it's just ripping them off. Like, this movie, in a lot of places, feels like... There's a couple of things that I don't think you would have done in a 70s movie. Maybe just violence-wise. But then I'm thinking about 70s movies I've seen, and they can get pretty violent.
I mean,
so,
I mean, the big inspiration that they named was Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver's pretty violent.
Sure,
also,
so maybe so.
It also feels like it was, like...
What I was going to say is this could come out then.
Yeah, well, and it also feels like it was produced by Scorsese. Like, Scorsese produced it, and it makes sense that Scorsese produced this movie.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because a couple years ago when this was announced and we heard about that, we were like, okay, his name is on it, but it's not going to feel like a Scorsese movie.
It feels like... Yeah.
It does.
Yep.
His fingerprints are on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they went in and they made a movie. And, like, whether you end up liking it or not, even if I ended up hating this, I think I would...
I appreciate the effort.
Appreciate that we're... Like, maybe in order to get people to see it, that's why we went with the material we went with, to get butts in seats. But people need to experience movies like this again. So I honestly don't really mind that. But besides that, it doesn't feel horribly commercial. And it takes risks. It risks losing the audience in a lot of places. Boy, for me, it never does. It's
also a movie for adults.
Let me say, I just thoroughly enjoyed this film. Just all the way through, I really had it. I'm not sure about the speech at the end. I've got my issues with it, but just all the way through, I didn't want it to end, and I didn't expect that. It was a ride, and it was a psychological ride. And the other thing I think it nails is it is both disturbing and entertainment, which is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And this again, I'm going to go back to Breaking Bad. It has that where I am enjoying it. And I am scared of it. And there's stuff that happens that I shouldn't laugh at, but I can't help but laugh at it. And this is a movie about what comedy is. And so I really, really appreciated the moments where I had that.
Mm-hmm.
There's one scene where I laughed harder than I have in a long time in a movie theater. And it's probably one of, if not the most disturbing scenes. It's amazing, you know, that it got me to that place. You know the scene I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's killer. It's just wonderful. It's quite good. I
agree.
I really liked it.
I've got issues with the ending, but like, you have to see it.
You have to see it. Yeah.
Like it's really good.
Spoilers?
Yeah, let's go to spoilers.
Let's do spoilers.
We're going to spoilers now.
Let's start with the comic book stuff because it won't take that long. So we got a really kind of jerk face version of Thomas Wayne.
But I don't know if he's actually that way.
The way he talks to...
but it's all from his perception?
Joker toward the end. Oh, so you're not even sure if that's exactly what's happening?
I'm not... I have
you have that where every exchange he has, you're like, is this actually really happening?
I'm not saying...
Is it all unreliable narrator?
I think it's all unreliable
I didn't have that.
Like, when he's on TV, I'm like... These might be the words he's saying, but I'm wondering if he's coming off as more of a jerk than he would be if I was just watching this news broadcast.
Here's why I don't think you're right about that.
I might be wrong, but it's also part of my issue with the ending. I think the world seems worse because we're from his lens, but then the world coalesces around him, and I think the movie thinks he's right a little bit, and I still don't agree with that.
But, okay, so here's the thing. I think the movie is pretty consistent in what it's presenting to the audience and letting us know what's supposed to be real and what's not. I'm seeing everything from his perspective, but I'm also let out of that enough so that it's not just a bunch of gobbledygook.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime it's supposed to be unreliable narrator, we are at some point told that. And that happens enough that it makes me think that, for instance, in scenes like the one I referenced a minute ago with the guy that he worked with that sold him the gun that he kills in his apartment, I think might be the best scene in the movie.
It's the best scene in the movie.
I love it. When he murders him, for instance, I'm assuming that the little person is acting exactly the way that he's seeing him act in that scene. You see what I'm saying? But like, he doesn't, but like, he thinks he has a whole relationship with that woman that he ultimately ends up not having. Because the movie ultimately tells us those things, I think that even though we're seeing it from his POV, more or less if a character is doing something, we can assume that that is how they're acting unless we're told that it's not.
But I think that there are things that are given a negative tinge that might not actually be as negative as they are. Not that people are doing or saying things differently, but like when he watches him on TV, I think that scene might play more negatively because it's from his perspective.
Okay, but when Thomas Wayne talks to him in the bathroom and punches him in the face, and
he definitely got punched in the face, and he confronts him in the back.
And the F-bomb he drops and all of that.
But he's also living up to the image of what he had for him because he's confronting him in the bathroom being crazy.
If you touch my son again, I'm going to effing kill you. The way he talks to him sounds like a real typical, somewhat two-faced politician to me. It watched very much like I'm gonna create this public image of caring about the homeless and the little people that I stepped on to get to where I am, but I'm not actually that way. And maybe he's ultimately like not corrupt, but he's not a nice guy. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that this Thomas Wayne is like totally corrupt. I'm not saying he's the Thomas Wayne from the Telltale games. But he might be. He could be. But I'm not saying that he necessarily.
But also that scene in the bathroom is like a real tense. Like, it is this crazy person who he knows is probably crazy, who was raised by a crazy woman, who's like almost assaulting him and just went to his home. Like, I'm not expecting to be a nice guy in that scene. And that's the only time we ever get to actually see him.
No, that's true. And maybe if we had more of it, I could be more sure of it. But
and I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm saying while I was watching the movie, I was like, I think things might be skewed. I'm also just not used to Thomas Wayne not being a good person, so like that might just be comic book stuff I'm bringing in.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if Thomas Wayne was actually as bad as he seemed, or if that was Arthur's perception.
So as far as whether or not Joker is right, I think it's the Dark Knight thing, where this is a character who has a point, but he's not right in the way he's handling it. So I think that the city is as bad off as everybody's talking about it. I think it is ripping itself apart. I don't know about the whole super rat thing. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that means.
It's really funny.
I don't know if that was a really weird, obscure reference to a third season 60s Batman episode. I don't know.
I think
the Pied Piper thing.
I think there were weird things like that in the 70s. Because we were still willing to believe it. Like that's like alligators in the sewers, right?
I thought that was the funniest thing.
It's really
the
funny.
super rats. And then when he has his daydream, where they mention the super rats again, it's really funny. But that whole thing, and then it's never mentioned again. They never bring up the super rats again. I kept waiting for that to come up. There were 2 or 3 exchanges where I was like, "You're gonna say super rats," and then they didn't. That was weird. But
it wasn't like super penguins living in the sewers.
I think the city has to be in as rough a shape as it is, and that there has to be political corruption, or at the very least that the politicians don't care in order for the one thing that people first see the Joker do, creating a movement that quickly. That's not in his head. That has clearly happened.
No, absolutely.
And so I think that there is a heightened sense to this movie. And I appreciate that. I don't think it's like wholly realistic. It feels ultra realistic as far as the grit of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't feel like a thing that could really happen. And that's where it's kind of comic booky.
No, but
I appreciate that about it.
I think all like these kinds of vigilante movies are kind of like that, right? Like
that's why it was
Taxi Driver's kind of like.
But that's why it was a good way to go with it. And I don't know if you had this, but I could have seen this as a graphic novel easily, like exactly the way it plays.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And as a good graphic novel.
And like I could almost like the way they frame things. I'm not saying they were framing like a comic, but like I can see the panel.
There's also the ways in which in the 70s movies are influenced by comics and comics are influenced by movies. So at some point this becomes a dog chasing its own tail. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, so when you say at the end it feels like the movie is endorsing him, I think the movie is saying that, like I said, he's got a point, but I don't think it's saying that what he's doing is okay, or that he's the hero of the story.
My issue is, up until the moment where he gives his speech where he goes, "This is what you get when you cross like a corrupt city with like a mentally, like whatever," he never talks like that for the rest of the movie. He never thinks like that for the rest of the movie. My understanding of him up until that moment is that he's someone who does not care about politics or issues, and doesn't actually like... He only sees himself. And he only... Like, that felt so counter to what the character was, and felt like the movie trying to comment on right now, today.
Yeah.
But is not the man that I've been watching. That...
Even if you're right about that, it's not the movie endorsing it. It's the movie... It's cautionary tale. It's if we don't change our ways, it creates people like this guy.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so maybe it gets too political at that point, and I can see that argument, and maybe you're right about that.
My issue isn't even
and that's where I thought it was taking it too far, is that he just said, I'm not political. I'm not political. I'm not trying to create a movement, and I believed him. There's also, and this is where I feel like I want some time with it, and I want to see it again. And I probably will go to the theater one more time and see this, but I feel like it's... I forget where I was going with that. I forget what I was going to say. Okay. Anyway.
My issue is that it almost like stops to underline what the movie's about and completely breaks the character.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that does he change his line of thinking in the moment where he has that opportunity for change where he decides not to commit suicide?
I don't know.
Is that what it is?
Because I expected him to endorse the fame and run with it, but I never... Like, within the realm of the movie that they made,
because
the character I saw...
He wants to be noticed.
Yes, and so I have no problem with that, and it makes sense. Like, he's very, like, the Joker's a very showy character, and he wants to be paid attention to.
And the laughing thing should be too gimmicky, and it's not. What's great about it is he wants it to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
He laughs, and he can't control it, and he doesn't know why he's laughing, and he gets into comedy because he wants it to mean something. Mm-hmm. I love that. I said when we heard that they weren't trying to adapt any comic stuff at all, I was like, well, if they're not careful, they might accidentally kind of repeat things that they're not paying attention to and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Brand new take.
Yeah.
Brand new take.
Yeah, absolutely. I just feel like when we get to that final scene with, not the final scene, but like when we get to that scene with the talk show host guy, I am looking at a completely different character than what I watched up to that point, and not like the final evolution. He changes to be a much more... He became a revolutionary and he wasn't, and I didn't expect him to. And I didn't like that.
Okay, well...
And that's where I'm like, oh, do you think he's right? Does this movie think he's right?
Yeah, but...
But like, to the... Like,
but then he doesn't do that. Then it doesn't feel like he's really doing that afterwards for the next 10 or 15 minutes that we get him.
Except that he's lifted up by like all the people.
It's cause but with respect, I feel like you might be reading too much into that image, because that's what he wants, and he's not gonna care that they're all about the revolution and everything. He's finally getting the notoriety that he always wanted, and people are following him and paying attention to him. I think it might just be that scene taking that speech too far. Because here's the thing.
You might be right.
It's not like...
Because I was immediately like, oh no.
When you say he's revolutionary, I don't even want to go that far. He's talking in that moment... I just wouldn't have written it the way they wrote it. I wouldn't have... Unless it's doing a thing that I'm not understanding, right? Mm. I feel like... he maybe shouldn't be talking about people that this happens to. He should be just talking about himself. Mm-hmm. I think that's the problem, is that in the middle of this revolution, he's saying, you do this to people like me, when he should just be saying, you do this to me. And that's more consistent because throughout, he's only taken out people that piss him off. Mm-hmm. But it's not like he's not the kind of Joker that just kills people willy-nilly.
Except he says that he is. Like, within that scene, he says that he is. He goes, I'm tired of pretending I don't think it's funny. And I'm like, you are creating yourself.
That's true.
Even if he's lying in that moment, he's creating an image, and then he completely says something completely opposite.
But, well, does he, or does he think it's funny to kill people who deserve it? Is that the consistency there?
Maybe, but that's not what he said.
Does he just think death itself is funny? Because every time he's joking about death, it's personal for him. It always means something to him. Mm-hmm. When I get this movie on disc, I'm going to go back and pause the Notebook and read everything, because there's stuff in there
and there is
that you don't have time to look at.
And there is a moment...
Did you have those panicky moments I did where I was scared to death it wouldn't be on screen long enough to get the point of why it's there? Because we'll see a lot of words.
But they also angle it so you can't see to the end of the line.
Yeah.
I think you're supposed to not be able to read all of it quick enough.
Yeah, but I bet there's insights in there of what we can see, and I want to pause it and look at it.
There's also two moments in this movie. There are two specific moments that make me feel like robbed of a Joker movie.
Interesting.
Not like this movie, but I'm never going to get to see him play the Joker, and that pisses me off.
Yeah.
So I never liked the makeup. He's never the Joker. Except for the one scene where his face is only painted white, and he looks perfect. And I was like, and I kept trying to think back to...
Did you like the blood lipstick at the end?
That's the other scene.
I kind of dug
when
that.
he puts it like that, and he stands up like this, and he does this smile, and I was like, and that's the moment where he becomes the... Like, it's almost like his face changes.
Yep.
I'm like, and now he's the Joker. And now the movie's over.
We don't see it.
But yeah, no, those two things are my biggest issue. Is that speech, and then him being revolutionary, and also tangentially responsible for the death of the Wayans, not the Wayans.
Yeah, I was impressed with the movie for being both a character study about a guy who is either misunderstood or can't be understood, who was created that way by circumstance. I like also, by the way, let me say this, that there's a little bit of a question mark, a little bit of a blurred line between nature and nurture. Like, would he be on any of that medication if it weren't for his background?
I love that.
Like, that's what I'm saying.
But that's also part of the thing where, like, when he gets that speech at the end, I was like, but society didn't exactly make you this. There are a lot of factors that made you this, and that's always the way it is.
But society could have helped him.
That's true.
And he would not have gone as far as he did, and, like, because we're talking a lot about in this movie about how society treats the mentally ill, and it's not just the way he was treated in the mental hospital. How his mom was treated. Yeah. And you usually blame the parents. You can't even completely fully blame the parents because of how she was treated.
But I think all of that works really well as subtext. And the second he says, I'm like,
that's the thing, is it gets the rest. I love it as subtext. Exactly.
The rest of the movie is too smart for that line.
I liked that it was working on the two levels, and that there's political allegory, and there is and there's social commentary, but it's also just a like I said, like psychological thriller about this guy who's going through this thing. But like does society create him, and does it not? But those feel like somewhat separate things. Or you can kind of appreciate it on two levels, and I'm with you. When it converges, I don't know if I totally buy it, and I don't mean to be a broken record, but I'm still not sure if I go quite as far as you do to say that the movie is like, it is making a point with that speech, but I don't know if at the end of it, it's endorsing what he's doing.
Okay, so, because like, I felt like throughout because I was worried about that with the movie. Throughout the entire movie, I was like, no one's going to watch this movie.
I just don't think it's glorifying it. I
kind of think it is by the end. Because up until that point, for the entire movie...
But it's a fine line to walk where you also want to enjoy this guy.
No.
Because the Joker's supposed to be kind of fun to watch, which is what Ledger got so right.
And that's the... Well, but he's also the bad guy in that movie, and this is the protagonist, and that's... But it's also an issue, or a question raised, every time Scorsese releases a movie.
Oh, really?
This is the Wolf of Wall Street question.
Yeah.
Does Wolf of Wall Street revel too much in that man's actions?
I had that question.
But I think also made me think that this one that made this feel like a Scorsese movie.
More than I do with this, though. But let me just say, when he murders the talk show host, I did not think that man deserved to die.
No. Well, okay, so here's the thing. For me, that's kind of a double beat. I've kind of seen that done before. There's another movie called God Bless America that's a similar thing.
Oh, really?
Where it's about...
Did you see that coming too much? Where it's like, he's going to blow his head off? Because
as
soon as
he
decided not to kill himself, I was like, okay, so he's gonna blow his head off.
But I did like his reasoning where he goes, "You wanted to bring me on here to make fun of me. You're just as bad as
me too."
And I like that.
And again, that's where I say that it's consistent. He killed him for the same reason he kills the guy in his apartment, and the same reason that he kills the guys on the subway train.
But I also like that it becomes like less and less apparent. It's like I killed these people because they like physically attacked me, and I killed this guy because he was kind of a jerk, and I killed this guy because like he's kind of a smarmy talk show host. Like each time is a lesser crime.
It wouldn't have felt like it if we emphasized the fact that it was public and that everybody saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we could have even had a scene or two where he's walking down the street and people recognize him and point and laugh. I was surprised we didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if instead of the speech at the end, it should have been more of the punchline of a joke. Or instead of killing himself, he tells a joke, and the end of the joke is he blows the talk show's head off. And the joke has something to do with the fact that he's more famous now.
I also would have been fine with the line that we get.
Like I'm not political, but look at all these people in the streets and what I've created. I have a bigger fan base than you do now.
Yeah.
And then he kills him. I don't mean to rewrite the movie, but like I think there were better ways to do that scene.
I also would have been fine with moving the line from the end of the movie to that scene, where he's laughing and like have the talk show guy be like, "Why are you laughing at yourself?" He's like, "Well, you wouldn't get it."
Yes.
And then he shoots him and then he laughs.
Yes.
Like I would have been fine with that.
Good call.
What happens for me in this movie that shifts is I'm watching this movie and I'm going, no one is going to watch this movie and walk away and think he had the right idea. Like everyone's watching this movie and you're like, this guy's damaged and unhinged and like this is not a good life. And then when I get to that ending, I'm like, I think people could watch this movie and walk away with the wrong message. Which is always the risk with the Joker, and was always a risk by making a movie about the Joker.
Yeah, and I also don't know if you can tell the story they're telling without a risk of that, because if there's not a risk of that happening with the audience, and you certainly hope that it doesn't. I know there's been a lot of controversies around this movie, and now that I've seen it, I'm not going to say that the really, you know, extreme reaction some people have had to it is warranted, but I understand a fear of that after seeing it.
But I don't for 85%. Like, for 85%, I'm like, no one's going to look at this movie like Heath Ledger.
Except that, let's remember, though, that it's not like the idea of a serial killer enticing a big group of people to follow him and be anarchistic is not there until the third act. I mean, we start building that very
But he's not involved. That's the thing.
I get that he's not involved, but as soon as you... And this is where I think that you're taking a risk. When you make it about people who are scared or already unhinged or desperate or whatever it is, following somebody like this because they think he's got the right message, you're risking that happening.
And that's the thing I think should have been underlined.
And I disagree with you. I think even if that speech hadn't been there at the end, and even if it didn't to you look like the movie might be endorsing what he's doing, that there would still be people who would fall into the camp of the people who start putting clown masks on in the movie. And if there's not a risk, this is what I was going to say earlier, if there's not a risk of it happening in real life, how would we believe that the people in the movie do it? But you have to take that risk if you're going to tell the story.
Well, yes, absolutely. But I think...
If you're going to tell the story, and some people might not think that you should tell this story.
What I was thinking... where I thought they were going and what I thought they were going to underline.
Yeah.
Instead of underlining the mental health issue, I thought they were going to be like, isn't it hilarious all these people rallied around me and I wasn't making a statement at all?
See, and I wish it had done that.
That's the Joker.
Yeah. And that would be the joke.
Yeah.
The Joker has to have a joke. That's
yeah, isn't it hilarious? I was just defending myself and everyone took it as a social statement.
I still kind of
if they were
see
poor,
it
I
that
would have
way,
shot
but
them.
there's just a speech that goes too far.
Yeah.
But the problem is that's kind of the big money speech. And it does feel like it's telling you what the character's
and it feels like the entire movie's building up to that, and that's... It's not... like, it's not just I don't like it, it feels... Traitors is the wrong word, but I can't think of a better one. It feels like it betrays the characterization of that character up until that scene. It just feels wrong to me. Like, they're not even bringing in outside forces. That felt wrong for this movie. Like, when I got there, I was like, oh, that's not where he should have gone.
Yeah.
But
so we're agreeing on what the problem is, just perhaps not the degree of it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Bruce Wayne connection, the Thomas Wayne connection?
I don't like it. I like the Thomas Wayne thing. I think that's funny.
Yeah.
But I don't like that Joker indirectly got his parents murdered because it's not a random act of violence.
I will say,
it's a targeted attack on rich people. It's part of a revolution, and that completely defeats the point of Batman. Because in that world, Batman absolutely grows up to be, like, specifically a rich man that beats up mentally like
a lot of people criticize the character of.
That's who that Batman specifically attacks poor people.
Yeah.
Who don't like rich people.
If Thomas Wayne was the problem, and you had, or at least the people that killed him thought he was, and Bruce Wayne had any inkling of that, I can see why you would say that defeats the point of Batman. I like the Telltale version because he becomes Batman before he knows his father was a criminal.
Yeah.
And that has to happen. You can't grow up knowing your parents were gangsters.
But you can't do that in this movie because the reason he was murdered, and the guy says it, like before he kills him is because they're rich.
It was a political statement.
Yeah,
and that does feel shoehorned in. It feels like it's there so that there's a reason that it's a Batman movie.
And if you cut that
it's in the Batman stuff.
This isn't a Joker movie. Like you change a couple names and it has no connection.
We could have gone. I was just sort of like appreciating. Maybe my standards are too low. I was just appreciating the gimmicky things we didn't do.
Yes!
I appreciate that the Joker isn't actually Thomas Wayne's son. And I kind of liked being led to think he was for a minute, and that connection was fine with me. I kind of enjoyed that.
There's a setup that didn't...
Oh, and I like his mom having delusions of grandeur,
yes,
specifically related to the father of Batman. That's great! I like that a lot.
I don't like him attacking Bruce Wayne as a child. It also... This man is going to be in his, 60s by the time Bruce Wayne's Batman.
Yeah, there's that. But that's the thing, it doesn't matter to them because they're not ever going to get there. So why have Bruce Wayne in the movie at all? Why not just not do that? Make us wonder if he's even born yet. I would have been fine with that.
You've got Thomas Wayne. Or you could just mention that Bruce is there, but he doesn't have to interact with him at all.
And I was sort of okay with the one scene with him and Alfred. If we didn't do the death scene at the end.
Oh, I don't like it because he attacks him.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne now has a personal connection to this guy.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But there's a thing that I thought was a setup for
We'll talk about this in a second. I honestly don't think that this version of the Joker could really become Batman's Joker at all.
He has no chemical skills. He has no bomb-making skills.
So he's not a super genius.
Yeah.
He seems to be able to escape and terrorize everybody in the mental hospital, which is hilarious. At the end of the movie, I appreciate this is a Joker we can kind of laugh at in places. But he seems to be able to do that just because the movie wants him to do that, just because he's that violent that nobody expected him to be that violent, not because he's super smart. I don't mean he has to be nth level. Brilliant, but
this doesn't seem like a guy that could put a heist together.
Yeah, I don't see him going up against Batman. I see him being potentially as scary as the Joker, but not as smart as the Joker. Furthermore, really easy to put together who he is.
Yes,
that's too easy.
But you know what they did do that I appreciated?
What's that?
He's adopted, and they list his name as unknown.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Arthur Fleck is a name that his mom made up, which I guess all names are names your mom made up. But
sure, but we'll never know what his real name is.
Yeah.
He doesn't either.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I kind of like a Joker where I'm not sure if he knows.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a Joker where the only ambiguity you have is stuff that we know for sure he doesn't know.
If we're getting into comic book stuff and comic purist stuff, this is 100% no way my Joker.
But that's why the movie's so impressive, is that by the end of the day, I didn't care about that stuff.
Yeah, same here. Because if I was doing comic book stuff, I got a lot of issues.
And then all we have is
none
the
of those
question,
matter for this movie.
Did this have to be a Joker movie? But I did like the stylistic comic book nature of some of it.
Because to me, who the Joker is before the chemical bath, I also don't like on a comic book level, not an issue with this movie.
You want it to be a chemical bath.
Yeah, we don't have to just keep doing Heath Ledger. That worked in that universe for that one time, that take. But the Joker it doesn't matter who he is. This isn't... Joker's a reflection of Batman. This one is not.
Yes.
Joker has the bad day. He goes into the chemical bath, and it does not matter who he was before that. He comes out a completely different person. Just like Batman, it doesn't matter who he was before his parents were murdered.
Yeah.
He comes out of that instant a completely different person. This Joker doesn't have that. And, that's fine for this movie. It works perfectly. But, if I'm bringing in comic book stuff, this isn't the Joker.
Well, that's the thing is, I wanted to see him go up against Batman, but then I don't know if I want that. I do what I don't,
time jump 10 years ahead, and...
Yeah, I get that, but is it as interesting? Knowing his background, I don't know if it's as interesting, and also, Batman being... Or Joker being a reflection of Batman, it's kind of more interesting if they kind of create each other, and this is decisively a Joker that creates Batman and not the other way around at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it couldn't be
Thomas Wayne.
He's not going to... Okay, but if he's not going to be connected to it at all, I guess that's not possible.
I guess Thomas Wayne didn't actually do anything.
So I don't know. Again, I'm conflicted. If you guys are thinking, I keep, contradicting myself, it's because I have contradictory feelings. I wanted to see this world continue and see what he's like on a grand scale, and kind of what it would be like to see him go up against Batman. But at the same time, I don't see him turning into comic book Joker. I thought there was something that was kind of convenient, or contrived, where we intentionally have the talk show host De Niro. De Niro's great in this, by the way.
Yeah, he is. For the first time in like a decade and a half.
Yeah, he was perfect casting. De Niro, and it made me want to see him do a movie where he's a talk show host, like as the main character.
Yeah.
Like they do a really good job. He does a really good Johnny Carson. Like it's great. But I didn't buy that the talk show host wouldn't say his name on air. His real name when he first first showed the clips. That's dumb. They wouldn't do that. It was just like some local comic. No, he would have had his name if somebody recorded the whole thing. And it's only not there so that he can be ambiguous and people not know his name. But then...
But everyone that worked there knew who he was. And he only killed that one guy.
Yeah. When he goes to the mental institution at the end, everybody would know who he was. Like, his mom was there, and he didn't have the makeup on. Like, they'd figure it out. So, I don't know.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say about... Oh! I also, like, for the comic booky thing, the Joker thing, and I guess kind of this movie, too, that scene needed to be him being the Joker, right? I thought...
Yeah, but it's more... They were trying to be realistic with it, where they wouldn't let him have the makeup.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
I'm talking about... I mean the talk show thing.
Oh, I see.
I took the scenes leading up to that, like when he kills that guy, in his apartment, and especially with just the white face paint, like that's his like I am becoming, like he figured out who he is, and then he gets on the show and he's just as uncomfortable.
He has that moment again.
Well, but I thought he was going to go on talk show. I'm like, now I get to see his Joker.
Yeah.
And I never actually get to see that. He doesn't have the confidence or the swagger.
I don't think he's quite there yet, because at that point he thinks that it's all just a big grand way to go out, and he still thinks he's going to kill himself.
But
like his motivations are different.
I need to see, but like then he should change, and he should become the confident. He's like, now I know who I am.
I think he kind of has that. I don't know.
I don't think he does in that scene. I think he does like when he's on the police car and like he has this eye, like he has this look in his eye. I'm like, there he is. I get to hear him talk. I get to, well, I guess until the last scene.
The entrance when he comes into the scene is amazing, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I also kind of wish it just wasn't Joker. Like I don't know if you know the history of this, but like Joaquin Phoenix saw Dark Knight and was like, I want to do something like that with a comic book character. I want to do Joker because obviously he just did that. But like,
and
I want to do
10
something.
years later, he ends up doing
because Joker's the only villain anyone could possibly think of.
Yeah.
Like, this could have been a Riddler movie. This could have been like with the same style. It could have been a Riddler.
Yeah.
It's disappointing that Joker's the only one we can sell, and I would have loved to have seen him give a definitive take on a different character.
But what you hope it does, sort of like the Deadpool thing, is that it leads us to being able to do more stuff like that.
Now we have to get DC's Logan.
Yeah. Like,
well, I guess this could kind of be DC's
Logan. I don't mean that I need a bunch of standalone supervillain movies, and I don't want a bunch of copies of this.
No, just quality, but in the way that Deadpool gave us Logan.
Could we get to more obscure characters, and by more obscure I mean just more obscure than the Joker? Could we get to more characters that we haven't really explored much, and do more artistic and smarter, more confident films, because this movie does well? I'd like to think maybe we could.
You know what this could have done? You know what a sequel to this could have been?
And it's clearly going to perform, so this could be great.
Yeah. But you know what a sequel to this could have been?
What's that?
You just do it again, but you do Harley Quinn. But with this tone, like you have it be the straight-up abusive Joker who like psychologically tortures and corrupts. And so you get your Batman, but it's not focused on that, and you get to see him be the Joker.
Sounds great.
Yeah, wouldn't it be really cool to see him fully formed, making someone else go through like what he went through? Like, that would be a cool sequel, but we're never going to get that because Birds of Prey is coming out, and it's going to look awful compared to this.
I think you could do a really good, sophisticated Harley Quinn movie.
I do too.
It'd be great.
And I think you could do it with this, like in the 80s. It's right there.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well,
but no, it's a good
all
movie.
in all, though, I really enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, me too. I
had a great time at the theater.
I was riveted. And then at the end, I'm like, I don't know about this.
It's also scary, and I was cringing in places. And the scene that we can't stop talking about, where he kills that guy in his apartment. Something about the way the blood splatter is on his face is like burned into my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
No, it was great. It was great. But yeah, no. Like, it's definitely worth seeing. Like, well, if you're the spoilers part, you should have already seen that.
Right. Yeah.
But like, it's one of those movies. Like, it's not. I'm trying to think of a movie that completely loses me in the like the last like 10 minutes.
And I feel like we've talked about some, yeah, where that happens to you.
Because but it's also like it's not like The Time Machine, where like it's complete like utter garbage at the end. Like, it's not. It's just, this is a movie I was riveted by and completely into, and then something happened. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And so my walking out feeling like, and then immediately sitting down talking about it is, I don't know about this.
I think it's a lack of subtlety problem.
Yeah.
I think it's that you had all this subtext.
I think
and
there's
then
like
all of a sudden we're kind of hammering the point home, and because it didn't feel like the Joker was saying those words. Yeah, it felt like the people who made the movie were saying that. Yeah. I don't have that in any other point in the entire film.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the character in that. And
one other place where that happens.
No, and it's so unfortunate. I'm like, oh, and it's the landing. That's the problem, is they just didn't stick the landing, and this isn't like falling on your face. It's just like that like slight stumble. Where I'm like, it was
you gotta hold up the 8.8 sign. Yeah. When you wish you could hold up a 10.
Yeah. You're a 9.2.
I would even say if it does stumble, it gets back on its feet.
Well, yeah, that last scene's amazing.
It's great.
And that's really where I was like, oh, but now I don't get to see it.
I also haven't mentioned the score, which is just killer.
Oh, it's amazing.
So good.
It's such a good score. Even I noticed it.
And it's a very 70s kind of score.
Yeah.
And it just fills the room. Like, yeah, it's great.
Yep.
I'm excited to see it again. Honestly, I will definitely go back to this.
I am interested to see, especially that third act stuff, how that plays to be on second viewing. Because, like I said, this is like, I have very strong first viewing feelings, but like I could be won over, or it could get worse. Like, I don't know.
Well, and you might appreciate some of the foreshadowing and stuff that it's doing to set some of that up, where you're like, well, that was there all the time, so of course they went there. But I don't know. But again, I agree with you on it going too far. Certainly.
But he's great. Like,
he's killer.
Like,
he's amazing.
Like, it's one of those things. Like, I don't even want to say that, because like that's all anyone's saying is like, but he really is that good.
Yeah. But I want to emphasize, it's not just the performance. Everything is backing him up.
Could you imagine if he was wasted playing Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
Because they wanted him to play Doctor Strange.
I'm glad that didn't happen now. But yeah, I'm interested to see what people thought of this.
Yeah.
Leave your comments, let us know. And like I said, I really want to go see it again. I don't know how you could have advertised this better now that I've seen it. I think it's a difficult movie to cut a trailer to without giving away too much.
See, kind of like halfway through, I was like, I feel like I cut that trailer to this movie.
Really? Because I'm like...
I mean, I could now, no editing, but
It's like we put just the most cliche moments, and they don't even read cliche in the scenes, and I was hoping that would happen, but there was so much of that in the trailer, I was like, I don't see how it's not going to feel obvious and on the nose. It's not.
And some of it's just music, and some of it's just context.
I still don't know why he paints his tongue, but other than that, I still think that's a weird move.
I felt like, because it doesn't paint,
right?
I thought he was just trying it, and he's like, oh, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. Maybe I should have gone green. Well, anyway, thanks again for watching, folks. Sure appreciate it, and had a lot of fun talking about it with Eric. We'll see you again down the road for another one, and in the meantime, I was Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And we will see you next time. Bye, guys.